Thinking about buying a new car? You're not alone. But before you jump into that dealership, let's talk about one crucial question. How much car can you actually afford? Spoiler alert, just because you can make the monthly payments doesn't mean you can actually afford it. In 2023, the average price of a new car in Canada hit a whopping $66,000.
Jesus Christ.
Meanwhile, the average annual income for the Canadian is around $60,000. Now, do those numbers sound like they belong together?
I don't think so.
That brings us to an important point. Just because you can manage the monthly payments, it doesn't mean you can actually afford the car. Today, we're going to break down what affording a car really means, and I'll show you how much car you should buy based on your income. Here's the thing, dealerships love to talk about monthly payments. They'll stretch out your financing to 72, 84, or even 96 months to make the payment look tiny. But while those lower payments might seem manageable, they can lock you into a car loan that lasts nearly a decade. By the time you're finished paying it off, the car's value has plummeted and you've paid a ton in interest. Let's not forget the extra costs: insurance, maintenance, gas, repairs, and let's not ignore things like new tires, brakes, oil changes, wipers, and even car washes. These are ongoing expenses that don't go away. So when we talk about affordability, we're not just talking about the monthly payment. You need to consider everything that comes with owning a car. Now let's get into what you should be spending on a car based on your income. Here's a simple rule of thumb. Try to spend no more than 10% of your take-home monthly income on car payments. This allows for another 10% for things like gas, insurance, maintenance, repairs, and registration. This keeps you from getting trapped in too much debt and leaves room in your budget for everything else, like 30% on housing costs, including utilities, 10% debt payments, 10% savings, 10% on food, 10% on personal, and 10% entertainment. First up, if you're earning minimum wage, let's say around $30,000 a year, if you live in Ontario, after taxes, you would take home $2,100 a month. So according to our rule of thumb, you shouldn't spend more than $210 a month on a car payment. But wait, there's more to consider. Are you only spending another $210 on gas, maintenance, repairs, and auto insurance?
I doubt it.
And will you find a place to live for $630 a month? So in reality, you shouldn't spend $210 a month on car payments. More like 0%. Take the bus or train and save for a used car worth 10% of your annual after-tax income, so $2,500. I know you can only buy junk with $2,500, but you're making minimum wage and you're trying to be financially responsible, so you shouldn't be going around in a brand new Civic. Next, if you're making $50,000 a year after taxes, this rule gives you a budget around $330 a month. But once again, consider your other costs like gas, groceries, and housing. If something more important requires a higher percent of your budget, you may need to lower your car payment. Remember, your goal here is the same. Minimize how much of your income goes into a depreciating asset. And once again, the better option would be to save up and buy a used car in full for around $4,000. Now, if you're making $100,000 a year, your budget for a car should be around $615 a month, or save for a car around $7,400. You've got more flexibility at this income level, but that doesn't mean you should go out and buy a brand new luxury car. A used car with lower mileage bought at a great price could give you the best value for your money. And what will your annual income be next year or in the next 7 years? So another factor you need to consider is how secure your income is year after year. What if you lose your job? What if you work construction and the big project you're on comes to an end? Then you may want to consider lowering your monthly car payment and allocate them funds into a different category like savings or extra debt payment. Finally, if you're fortunate enough to be making over $200,000 a year, you might be looking at a car budget of $1,100 a month. Finally, I can buy the Toyota Tundra. Sure, not everyone needs a $100,000 truck, but at this income, you can afford it. You can afford a lot of things with this income, but why waste the money? Buy something half the price of this and your savings and investments will get a big boost. Now let's get real for a second. Cars are depreciating assets. The second you drive it off the lot, your car's value starts to drop and it keeps dropping year after year. It's not just the purchase price that costs you. Owning a car means ongoing monthly costs. Every month, you'll have to think about payments, interest, maintenance like oil changes, brakes, tires, wiper blades and repairs. Plus you'll need insurance and gas, and it all quickly adds up. So just because you can afford the payments doesn't mean it's a good financial decision to max out your affordability. What really makes sense is buying the best used car you can pay for in full in cash. Now, if you got the discipline and you want to finance a used car at a low interest rate, that can be a smart move too. Why? Because if the interest rate on your car loan is low enough, you could invest the cash you'd otherwise use to buy the car outright and potentially earn a higher return in the stock market. Let's say your car loan interest rate is 3%, but you make 7% or more investing in the stock market. In that case, it might make more financial sense to finance the car and invest the cash for a higher return. Just remember, this only works if you're disciplined and if you can get a low interest rate loan. I kind of did something like this. I was saving up to buy a used car for around $35,000. I managed to save around $20,000. Then my current car broke down and the cost to fix it wasn't worth it as the frame was starting to rot out, and to make things even better, my wife was pregnant at the time. So instead of using what I had for a down payment, I financed the full cost of a 2018 Ridgeline at a 3% interest rate. Then I took that $20,000 and I invested it in the stock market and currently have an average annual return of 9%, so not bad. Plus at the time of purchase, the monthly payments was around 7% of my monthly income and currently around 5% of my monthly income. This is to account for the fact that I have another beater car, which I use for commuting, and I have higher fuel costs because I have a longer commute to work. So how much car can you actually afford? Consider the 10% rule based on your monthly income, and don't fall into the trap of financing more car than you really need. Also consider other factors like reliability of annual income, and do other categories of your budget require more allocation. And remember, cars are tools, not investments. They lose value the moment you start driving them. The smartest financial choice is to minimize your car-related expenses, buy used if you can, and only finance if the interest rate is low enough that you can invest the rest. Your future self will thank you. And if you want more thanks, keep educating yourself by watching one of the videos on the right of the screen.